For some people, another person's disappointment doesn't simply feel uncomfortable, it feels deeply personal. The moment someone else's mood shifts, something inside of you also shifts. You start searching for where you went wrong, not because anyone has blamed you, not because you know you've made a mistake, because that's where your body first learned to go. And this can happen so quickly that there hasn't even been space to first ask what actually happened. The facts of the interaction haven't been fully collected. It's quite possible that the other person's reaction may have very little, if anything, to do with you. But somehow this pattern has emerged within you of immediately assuming that you must have fully caused this problem and the responsibility is fully yours to solve. A big part of this that isn't often discussed is that consistently stepping into self blame is usually not about having low confidence or low self esteem. For lots of people, it's become a relational survival skill learned very early on. When important relationships, such as the connection between parent and child, feel confusing, it's safer for that child to assume responsibility for the confusion, the hurt, the inconsistencies, as in their experience, this keeps them less likely to rock the boat with the person who essentially keeps them alive. It also helps them to feel some semblance of control, when in reality, they're not rocking the boat. But to acknowledge that their parent is inconsistent and emotionally harmful leaves that child feeling so vulnerable and so powerless. So it makes sense to turn inward and wonder, what did I do? What can I do to fix this? How do I keep this from happening again? And as children, we naturally look for patterns. Children have very little influence over how the adults around them behave. They can't change a grown up's moods. They can't change whether a caregiver takes accountability. They can't make someone emotionally mature, but they can try to adapt. And adaptation often looks like paying very close attention, watching, listening, anticipating, trying to figure out what keeps the relationship going. Over time, many children reach a conclusion they never consciously chose. Their body comes to realize that if someone is upset, they need to start looking at themselves. And initially, that may seem like humility or empathy or taking accountability, but those aren't the same things because there's a difference between honestly reflecting on your own behavior, receiving respectful feedback, and automatically assuming responsibility before you've had the chance to fully understand the situation. Those are two very different processes. One begins with curiosity, the other begins with self-blame. Something else that often goes unnoticed is that assuming everything is your responsibility can create the feeling that everything is within your control. If the relationship depends on you, then maybe you can fix it. Maybe if you're more patient or more understanding or more careful or thoughtful, more available, more agreeable, then things will finally feel okay. And often, believing everything depends on you can temporarily reduce those feelings of hopelessness, powerlessness, rather than accepting that someone else's behavior is outside of your control. Because if you could just fix this dynamic, then maybe you'll finally feel safe. This challenge rarely stays in childhood. It often follows people into adulthood. Someone sounds irritated, and you immediately start reviewing everything that you said. Someone takes longer than usual to respond, and you wonder if you've done something wrong. Maybe you said something that didn't sit well with them. Someone seems disappointed. You begin preparing an apology before you've even decided whether one is necessary. You replay conversations, over-explain decisions, mentally rehearse future interactions. these responses have likely been practiced for a very long time. And one of the hidden costs of repeating these patterns is what it does to the connection with yourself. When your attention immediately shifts outward towards understanding everyone else's reactions, there's far less space to connect with what's happening both within yourself and also within the relationship. You miss the chance to ask yourself, what actually happened? What am I noticing? What feels true to me? Which parts of this exchange belong to me? And which parts belong to someone else? Without realizing it, your relationship with yourself begins to change. Instead of trusting your own experience, you begin trusting other people's reactions more than your own reality. Another cost is that your emotional energy becomes organized around preventing disappointment instead of living authentically in the moment. You may hold back your opinions, minimize your needs, apologize for things that don't require an apology, take responsibility for a dynamic that involves two people, carry emotional weight that was never fully yours to carry. Over time, this can leave you feeling as though you're constantly chasing this consistently moving goalpost. And one distinction that has been frequently very important in my work with clients is supporting them to separate accountability from responsibility. Because healthy accountability goes something like, yeah, I contributed to this, or I did X thing and I acknowledge it was hurtful. I want to repair it. That's very different from believing the other person's upset, therefore I automatically must have done something wrong. Healthy relationships leave room for curiosity. Curiosity about what happened. Curiosity about each person's experience. Curiosity about misunderstandings, different perspectives, different values, and repair. Healthy relationships don't require one person to immediately become the explanation for every uncomfortable emotion that someone else experiences. Sometimes the first shift is creating enough safety within your body to then be able to pause and bring that critical thinking part of you back online to begin to ask different questions. Instead of beginning with, what did I do? You begin with, what actually happened? Instead of asking yourself, how do I fix this? You ask, what is here to repair? And how will that look? Who was involved? Instead of automatically assuming responsibility, you become curious. That small shift creates something many people haven't experienced in a very long time: space. And in that space, self-trust has an opportunity to grow. If it feels supportive, I invite you to reflect on a few questions. When someone seems disappointed with you, where does your body and mind go first? Do you become tense, frozen, angry, curious, immediately responsible? Do you connect with the opportunity to understand what's happening? Or does it often turn into collecting evidence against yourself? What might change if you were able to practice understanding the situation before deciding whether it was fully yours to carry? Many people spend years, even decades, believing they're simply caring, empathetic, thoughtful. And those qualities are likely true. But sometimes those qualities have become tangled together with this older survival strategy. This strategy that whispers, if someone else is uncomfortable, immediately look to yourself. And beginning to notice that pattern is not about avoiding accountability. It's about learning the difference between taking responsibility for your actions and carrying responsibility for someone else's emotions, choices, or even their level of emotional maturity. Those are not the same thing. And learning to discern the difference can gradually change the way you relate to yourself and to the people around you. As always, take good care of yourself. You're so worth it.